Good morning. It is January 29th, 2025, and it is 8:18 in the morning. I'm going to finish the video that I didn't finish, and I was going to go to the lake, and there was a bunch of things that were going to go on, and things have been crazy, you guys. So I moved about a week ago into an RV, and about 3-4 days ago, my fridge went out. And so everything that was in there, which wasn't a lot, but the stuff that was in there all went spoiled. And so my landlord had to get a new fridge. And so I'm waiting for that to come in today. I got a new job and I'm starting that today. So there's a lot of things that are happening and going on right now. I also am going through some other stuff, but getting through it. You know what I mean? Like, we're all just getting through this, right? But I wanted to leave off from my last video that I was telling you, and this is really hard for people. Please understand that I am aware, and I think I've said this many times, like the boundaries of things and sorry, there's something on my screen, and trying to tell my journey without stepping on boundaries of other people's journeys. And this has been really, really tough to do. And so people are seeing this from so many different perspectives, and people are calling other people going, hey, just putting your crap out there, blah, blah. And I'm just like, dude, that's not what's happening. And maybe people should start watching the videos before they want to come at me and attack me, before they want to come at me and judge me. And I really am praying that in. I'm praying that people's eyes are awakening differently and that people are starting to see things differently, because I'm really getting tired of the attacks, and I'm really getting tired of isolation at the same time. Like, I feel like I keep getting attacked and that keeps me in isolation because I'm not really sure what to do with it all. You know what I mean? But to continue on to what I was saying on my last video. So my daughter and I hadn't talked for a bunch of months. And so I said to her, why did we stop talking? And she's like, you know why. And so she explained to me why. Well, it made more sense in my healing. It made more sense. And so I give props to my daughter because she spoke up and she spoke truth and she was correct in it. And I was ready to receive it in a different way. And it kind of woke me up a little bit, and I said something to her and I go, I don't even remember that. And she goes, welcome to trauma, Mom. And I went, ding, and I realized that in our traumas, what we block, what we file, what we put away, what we hide, what we don't see, what we don't understand. And a lot of that has to do because in our survival mode, the perception in which we see things. And so when you're in survival mode and when you're in fight or flight or when you're in this, you can tend to drag or take other people with you down that dark hole, I guess you want to say, of your own trauma, not realizing that they're coming with you. And we do this with our children, when you live in a trauma or when things happen in your life and you just keep going, but you don't deal with the heal, you don't deal with things and you stuff it in and you become a different person and you become almost somebody that you're not really happy with, but you're content with it and you're okay with it or whatever the case may be, because maybe you're just not dealing with it, And so I realized some things that I haven't been dealing with. And so that's kind of helped me, you know what I mean? And so kudos to my kid for speaking up and saying something, but I had to see her perspective and I had to understand where she was coming from. Well, that also turns around sometimes, when Mama Bear comes out, Mama Bear has to say something too, you know what I mean? So we just kind of work together and we get through it, And that's kind of what I'm saying with all of this, when we get to a crossroad, when we get to a place in our lives, when we're trying to understand some things, this is where God says, I need you to be still. This is where God's going, don't react, don't get offended, don't do anything. When you don't know, don't do. Because this is where the devil and the enemy can start to come is in that confusion. And when confusion happens, the voices start to come and people start to come. And this is where people rely on others and they come to them for advice or they come to them for something instead of going to God first. And if you go to God first, then you're not relying on man. And so you can figure out some things with God. You can work some things out. You can look at it from different perspectives. God will show you some things, God, and maybe that's God's way of telling you, thank you for being still and listening to me because I'm going to prep you for something else, or we're going to learn a lesson in this, or whatever the case may be in your journey. I mean, everybody's different in their journey. Some are learning lessons, some are growing, some are teaching, some are doing, some are, everybody is different. We're all kind of just flowing down the river, right? Well, flowing down the river kind of means we're all going to kind of align and we're all going to kind of make this work. And so there are times when we're floating and there's times where we're just like, woo, right? It's really hard to do. Healing is very hard work. But it's rewarding work to make yourself better. But if you continue to stay stuck, if you continue to repeat the same cycles and say, this is my life and this is how it is, then you're right. That's exactly how it's going to be. And if you're accepting that, then that's your life that you're accepting. But that doesn't mean that everybody else has to accept your life the way that it is. Whether that's good or that's bad, right? You are doing better for yourself, and then there are those that are jealous, or there are those that are angry, or there's those that don't get it, or there are those who are scared, or but you have to keep going because with your relationship with God, within your heart, what you are doing is right. And it's working, and it's healing, and it's doing, and you're seeing the fruits of that within other people, and you know that you're helping others some way, somehow. And that gives you the energy to keep going. Linda, get down, baby. Hey, get down. So you just keep doing, But then there are times where you have to be still and you have to go, okay, why did this happen this way? And what did I do wrong in it? And what can I do better? And what did I lose? And how did I lose it? And I mentioned in my last video, you kind of look at yourself and you go, okay, where was I when I met them? And where am I now? And when you reflect and you look back, you can say, oh, they were good for me in my life, or they weren't so good for me in my life where we're at now, or heck no, I've got to move on. You kind of figure that out. Well, look at addicts. Look at people who are in recovery. Well, I don't care how you're healing. I don't care what you're recovering from. This is a broad spectrum that can work for anybody. So you look at addicts and they go through a program. They go through this and they go through that. And they say, don't date for a year. Don't do this for a year. Don't do that, and they talk about the healing and being alone and being isolated and working through stuff and having to do stuff. Well, working through that, if you are an alcoholic and you are going and hanging out with your bar buddies and you're in recovery, where are you at in your recovery that you can hang out with your buddies at the bar? Or maybe you think you're controlling it and you're like, I got this, I'm good. Well, you are until you're not. And you stretch those limits. You say, I can handle this. I'm doing good. And then before you know it, you're either not a happy drunk, or you've gotten a DUI, or you're in jail, or you've caused a fight, or you've done whatever. And then you realize in those moments that you can't handle some things the way that you thought you could anymore. And so you have to decipher that, and you have to figure that out. So when you're in recovery, you can't exactly hang out with the same crowd that you were hanging out with because of the influence that they do for you, whether that's good or bad. Now, I'm not saying for those of you that do drink that you can't drink. That's not what I'm saying. Drink responsibly. Have a good time with it. Have fun. But stop being stupid with it. And there are those who can't handle their alcohol, can't handle things. And so they have to set that boundary, not because they don't care about you, not because they don't love you, not because they didn't have good times, not because you weren't important in their life, or maybe you weren't. Maybe you were just a alcoholic friend. I don't really know. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe you did something, or but you get my point. You can't hang out with the same crowd when you're healing, when you're recovering from something, when you're doing something. And so that shifts, that changes, things change, your life starts to change. And change is really hard to do, right? So think of that as you're moving forward in your healing, in your journey, in your walk with God. We all have certain beliefs and standards that we all live by. And the truth and the authenticity in which we stand in those attracts the energy, attracts the people that will help you grow in that. and what you want to grow in, or how you want to grow in whatever is happening in your life, that's what you will focus on. Well, this is why they say as believers, focus everything on God. Because the Bible and learning and teaching and listening and understanding and growing and wisdom and knowledge and giftings and all these things will grow what you're feeding. You know, we talk to our plants, right? And our plants don't talk back to us, but something happens in the growth of the plants in the way that you talk to them and how they heal and the words that you use and the things. And this is the word spells. This is everything that we're talking about. So any living thing responds in some way. Plants are a living thing. They respond to what you feed them. Same with people. How you feed them is how they're going to respond. So negativity and hurtful things and narcissistic ways and control and all these things, they're not helping you. They're hindering you. But when you need to put on your armor of God in the love, in the righteousness, in all the virtues in which they talk about in the Bible of the armor, that is an armor of love. That is an armor of boundaries. That's an armor of understanding. And when you set those boundaries, the reactions are not going to align with you all the time. And you have to be okay with what comes at you and how it comes at you, as long as the part that you're doing in it is of God, is of truth, is okay. God will protect you in his will of what is happening if you are doing it with the right heart space and the understanding of why you're doing what you're doing when you're doing it. And you don't always know that when you're doing it. And that's where the wisdom and the growth and the learning and the understanding come as you're doing your journey, as you're growing in your journey. When you learn the lessons and don't repeat the lessons and you do better and be better, that shifts things, that changes things, that changes you're altering your future. You're you're bending the lens on what is versus what can be. So when we're praying, when we're manifesting, when we're asking, when we're pleading to the courts, when we're asking the heavens, when we're asking the angels, when we're asking for certain things, we're asking them at a level of understanding from a heart space that God gets. So when you go to the court, when you are asking the judge for something, you are surrendering it to the judge. You are surrendering it to them. And this works for anybody. I've posted videos, I think it was a football player, and his dad was in jail or something. His dad was doing prison time or something like that. And he came and he pleaded to the judge on behalf of his dad, knowing everything that his dad has done, forgiving everything that his dad has done, but remembering who his dad was growing up versus the man that's standing next to him in prison now. And when he brought that to the judge understood growth, change, forgiveness. That's the judge of it all. God is the judge of it all. He's the mercy, he's the grace, he's the forgiver, he's everything for us. So when we look at the warning signs of Revelations, when we look at the warning signs in the Bible, everything that he has warned us about doesn't mean it doesn't come. How we respond to the warnings is how it proceeds from here. So we can look at Revelations, we look at the blueprint, we understand what's happening. Some of us, it's too magical, it's too weird, this is all not real. And we understand that perspective of that. But when you understand the Bible at a deeper understanding of who Christ is in us, as you learn, as you grow, as you go back to the basics of who Jesus is, as you go back to the basics of Genesis. I don't mean to laugh, but I feel like a broken record sometimes, but I guess I kind of have to be, right? And this is kind of where God's at. He's just like, this is a broken record. Like, you all have the Bible. You all have a way to see things. And I'm trying to show you what God is trying to show us in that. And so when you come to a crossroads, and this is for my real spiritual people, when you come to a crossroads of where you're at and you're learning of the Bible and you're growing of the Bible, and you come to a different crossroad, a new level, new devil, we've talked about all of this, and you come to a new understanding of who Christ is, who God is in your life, in our lives, and as a whole, as a generation, as a world, as a whatever you want to look at it, whatever layer you're looking at all this in, personally to nationally, okay? You have to take the good with the bad. This is why I say you sit well with your dark side, but you don't lead with the dark side. Knowing it's there, understanding its power, and taking control of the enemy puts you in a different position to fight the enemy. Puts you in a different position to understand the enemy. Puts you in a different understanding, a different mindset to go, okay, well, I see this, but where does God fit in this? And this is where we start to peel the layers of Revelations. This is where we start to look at Revelations differently with new eyes, a new understanding, and go, okay, it talks about this in Revelations. Well, what is God going to do about it in Revelations, and where do we fit into this? How does he use us for what's coming? This is where a lot of people are sitting at in religion and putting God in a box and understanding the future and living in fear. And we shouldn't do this and we shouldn't do that. And that is demonic and that is this and that is that. And I'm not saying that everybody is wrong. Nobody is wrong, but I don't think that everybody's right either. I think that we need to flow with this better. I think that we need to all have a different faith and hope and an understanding of the impossible God and not living in fear. And in order to do that, we are all going to have to surrender differently. We're all going to have to put some armor down, and we're all going to have to give it to God, and we're going to have to let God lead in this. If we do not let God lead, we're doomed. And that is the warning that God is giving us. He is saying, I'm right here. I'm standing in front of you. I'm going in front of you. I'm standing beside you. I'm here for you. I can't stop. I don't want to. I need you all to see it. I'm trying to save you. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to get you to understand on a bigger way. This is everything God is saying to us when it comes to Revelations. He knows the enemy. He knows. He's the one who put him here. He's in control of it all. But we have free will. And God's mercy and grace as humans, he has said, you all have free will to make your choices, but that doesn't stop me from being who I am. And that's what God is saying to us. He's saying to us, I am who I am. And you either are going to accept it, and you're going to accept my son, and you're going to accept the past, and you're going to accept the history, and you're going to learn from it, you're going to see from it, you're going to understand it, you're going to live by it, because my son is the way. He's the truth, he's the light, he's the way. And if he is in us, we now are the truth, the light, and the way. Based on God's understanding and knowledge today. We take that with us. We are his vessel. We are his disciples. What does that look like for you? As believers, non-believers, atheists, those that don't understand, those that are confused, those are this, those are that. I get this broad spectrum of everything. But that doesn't change who I am in Christ. That doesn't change my belief because you don't like it. Then don't follow. Don't do it. I'm okay wherever everybody wants to to stand because I stand with Christ. Does that make me weird? Does that make me, whatever everybody wants to call me? Okay. But I've seen it. That's why I'm okay with where you all stand. That's why I'm okay with what you all want to say about me. Because I see it in my life. The good, the bad, the ugly. But I trust him in it. Knowing that I don't have everything that I want. Knowing that it's not ideal. Knowing that it's not magical and it's not completely fruitful yet. And it's not, but I'm working on those fruits. I'm working on myself. I'm working on things with God. The ideal is not ideal in 3D, but the ideal in 5D in the spiritual realm is fascinatingly beautiful. And I'm going on that. I'm going on God's promise. I'm going on what's to come. I'm going on who he is and what he says and what he does, because he is the all-knowing. He is the almighty. He's the Alpha. He's the Omega. We are the head. We are the head, not the tail. Don't be an ass. Don't assume anything. Who am I to come on here? Who do you think you are? I am nobody. I'm just like the rest of you, but I'm learning and growing and healing and doing just like everybody else is. What does that look like? How does that work? I don't know. I just do it. I just live by his word. Regardless of what's happening. Because that's what keeps me going. What keeps you going? I have a small, very, 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 very small circle of people who really get me. And I have a very, very small group of people who support me in this. And I pray that one day that support becomes bigger. And I pray that one day my circle becomes bigger. And I pray that one day this nonsense stops. And that I'm just accepted for who I am. The way that I am accepting everybody else the way they are. But you all, for some reason, don't see me this way. And I find it flabbergasting. The judgment that everybody has on me. And the pressure that is on me because of who I am. And I don't understand those of you that are believers. This hurts my heart. Because you all say that you're believers and you've all known me and you've known me for so long. And then I go, where are you all? Where are my believers? Where are those diehards that believe in God the way that God intended? And you guys, my phone isn't blowing up. My messages aren't blowing. Like, that's not how this goes. You all think that I have this grand old life and that I don't. I don't. I spend 95% of my life and day alone. My phone doesn't blow up. I have peeps. I do. But that circle is so small that it's not like my phone blows up all day. You know what I'm saying? And if it is, it's the same people. Because we're having conversations. I'm not holier than thou. I'm not better than anybody. I am a sinner. I am not perfect. I screw up. We all screw up. But God knew that. And so we're all working through that. We're all doing differently. We're all trying differently. We're all, and I go, what makes it okay for everybody else to change, but it's not okay for me to change? Think about that. Oh, you're doing this. Oh, you're doing that. The judgment that comes at me is flabbergasting to me. I went on a healing journey, mentally, physically, and spiritually, and here I am. I'm crazy. I'm psycho. I need therapy. I'm on drugs. I'm this. I'm that. She's a witch. She puts curses on people. She does this to people. I don't do anything to anybody. And whatever you're doing it to yourself. I'm not in your life. I'm not talking to you. I'm just doing my life. And I work at a daycare. Like, I make crap money. I live in an RV in the middle of nowhere. Like, it really is in the middle of nowhere, but it is in the middle of nowhere. If you knew, you know. But I'm just like, I don't know what everybody's expectation is in this, or everybody's expectation of me, but everybody's coming at me with an expectation that I cannot fill. I don't know anything more than anybody else does going into the future. I know what I want. I know what I'm praying in. I know what I'm asking God for. If it is His will, it will be. If it's not, I have to go with the flow of that. And that's what I'm doing. I'm flowing in it. I'm flowing in it in isolation. I'm flowing at it being alone. I'm flowing in it going, I don't know what's changing. I don't see the change. I don't see the change here. 3D. I don't see the change here. I don't see it happening. Not to the extent that everybody thinks it should be happening, I guess. Because it's not my timing, it's God's timing. And so I'm okay where I'm at in my journey, but it doesn't look okay to other people in my journey. It looks like I'm unstable. It looks like I'm unsure. It looks like I'm crazy. It looks like this. It looks like that, right? I can't change everybody's perspective. I just can't. I don't have that power. I just don't. You have the power within yourself to change the perspective of yourself and others around you. And that's what I work on. Regardless of how people feel about me, regardless of the attacks that are coming at me, regardless of what people say or doing, how they attack me, the words, the things, the violence, the anger, the whatever that keeps coming at me, I just stand back and I go, yeah, I know exactly what's happening right now. I can't fix you. I can only fix myself. And when I fix myself, I try to help others as well. Because I've learned something. Because I'm doing something. Because I'm understanding things differently. With growth, with wisdom, with knowledge, with understanding of the Bible, with understanding God, with understanding Him in it, and how He's working in it. But if you don't have that relationship with God, you're not going to understand my perspective. And that's where it comes very hard. And so for those that are believers, those that do read the Bible, those that are reading the Bible, it hurts me that you don't see this perspective. But that's where I put on my armor and I can't get offended and I can't be upset of the silence and I can't be judging of people who don't want to see the transition in a positive way, I guess. And that is really hard as a believer to swallow when other believers aren't seeing it the same way. And I don't like cutting people off. I don't like leaving people behind. I don't like letting people go to God. I don't like it. And that's the uncomfortable zone. That's where you go, okay, I have to trust in it. I have to believe in it. I have to have faith in it. I have to have hope in it. I have to understand it. We don't like it. We're not like, yay. Like, that's not a heart space that you should be in. You never want revenge. You never want anybody to actually suffer. You don't like the fact that they're suffering, but you understand the suffering. But when is suffering enough? And when do we all get to come out of the suffering? When do we actually get to live in joy? When do we actually get to have the fruits? When do we actually get to see the harvest? You got to go through the process in order to do that. And the process is ugly, and the process is hard, and the process doesn't look right, and the process is confusing. And there's so much to the process that being still and focusing on something, on God, on something good, on something right, on something that works, helps you. It doesn't make us better than anybody. It doesn't make us holier than that. We are not holy. We cannot be holy. We're human. God knew that in our creation. But he is asking you to stop doing stupid stuff. He is asking you to grow up. He is asking you to change. He is asking you, and change is not bad. It's only bad when you fear change. Why do you fear change? May be the question that you need to start asking yourself and asking God. What is it about this crossroad that you're stuck, that you're hindering, that you're not understanding, that you're needing? This is where you go, okay, God, show me. Show me where we're at and what I need and what you're asking of me. What do you, God, need from me? Not what can you do for him. Not what can he do for you. Sorry. Not what can he do for you. What can you do for God? Stop being selfish in your needs and asks in your prayers to God. He already heard your prayers, but until you meet him, he won't give you more than you can handle. So maybe you're asking for too much too soon. So God needs you to keep that momentum, keep that prayer, keep that understanding on a national world level and your mind and your dreams and your ambitions and your goals, but take it down in a process, in a step, in a minute and an hour, in a time, in an era, in a place, you live in the moment in order to get to the bigger. And when you succeed in the moment, you get more, you do more, you be more. God will fill that cup more. God will give you more so that you can overflow more with other people. So your cup will overflow, and it is a cycle. You are growing in that cycle, and look at the plant. The plant became a seed, and then it's growing, and it blossoms into these beautiful flowers that we get to see, smell, take pictures of, remember, have memories of. But where that mustard seed starts has to grow. And your mustard seed may be dug right deep into the ground and has a lot of dirt it has to get through to come out. But it has a huge root. Look at the trees. Look at the roots. Look at the years. Look at the weather. Look at the changes they go through, and they become stronger and bigger and harder to take down. We can't stop the river from flowing. What some of us do, we put a dam up. The beavers make a thing and they stop the river from flowing, right? Something's going to block you. Something's going to stop the river from flowing. You got to go and you got to put dynamite to the beavers, right? You gotta blow up the beaver's dens. Blow it up. Blow up what's stuck. Blow up on what's wrong. Blow up on where you're stuck at. Put dynamite to it. Set a fire to it. Let the Holy Spirit fire it up. Be unshakable in the fire. Be unshakable when it arises. Be unshakable when you hit that cross and you know that there's going to be something coming to it. Because you made a choice for yourself. And you know that the battle's going to come, and you know that you're going to get attacked, and they're going to go, I thought this. I thought you said this. I thought you did this. I thought this. I thought that. And you're going to go, right, you're right. You're absolutely right. I did. I did then. I did at that time in my journey. I did when I didn't understand what I understand now. So yeah, I screwed up. Yeah, I made mistakes. Yeah, I'm not perfect. Yes, yes, yes. I've already taken accountability for that. I've already lived in my guilt, shame, and condemnation for it. I've already given it up on the cross. I've already surrendered on my knees. I've already cried it out. I've already done everything that I possibly can in my human nature to control what I think that I control. And I've given it up, and I've given it to God, and He's now in control. Because I came to a crossroads differently than maybe some other people are coming to a crossroads. My crossroad is not your crossroad. But we all can understand the crossroad. We all understand feelings. We all understand words. We all understand the concept of words and what they mean. I don't know what this looks like for everybody. I just know what it looks like to God in my journey. And I fear Him enough, and not in a fear of having to run out and get toilet paper, not in a fear of, oh my God, I'm going to be punished. That's not what fear of God means. The fear of God means is that you've seen the goodness in Him and you don't want to lose that. You know, when you're parents and you give your kids, you count to 3. When I get to 3, what's going to happen, right? Well, God's been counting to 3 for quite a while. He's going 3.5, 3/4. You know, don't we do that as parents? And God's going, I'm done counting to 3. Like, I need you all to listen. He's saying, I need you all to pay attention. I'm your Father. I'm the one who loves you. I'm the one that's going to carry you through this. I'm the one that's telling you, trust me. I will not forsake you. Don't fear me. Yes, it looks ugly. Yes, there's a lot of battles, but I know who you are because I created you. I know what you can handle. I know what you can do. You are my child. You guys, He's bigger than all of this. And when you look in your world, and I say this to everybody all the time, the world that you're living in, where are you? Are you in your pity party? Are you being selfish? Are you not having a heart space that you should have? Are you doing your prayers and you're doing everything as if it's just a routine? Because you think that that's going to get you to heaven and you think that's what you need to do? Maybe you just don't care. Okay. Maybe you're content. Maybe life is good for you. Maybe the way that you're doing it is working for you. Great. I'm happy for you. But remember, it's a season. Remember, it's a time. So when the seasons change and when things change, how are you going to react to those? You know, it's funny because I worked at a lot of corporations and I've done a lot of, working with big corporations and things. And one of the major things they ask you in interviews and stuff is change. How well do you adapt to change? And you find in companies, there's a lot of change. And you have to roll with the change as companies are growing and changing. because they are prospering. And so what may have worked in a certain time and in a certain season or certain years of that company no longer work. Maybe the software has to be updated. Maybe something has to change. And well, people don't like change. They like the software. They know it. They can get their job done. They know. And then when new software comes in, I hate this software. I don't like this software. I don't like how this software works. I don't like. Yep. They know. Either you adapt and you roll with it and you learn the new software, or you don't. And so you have a choice. You can go into work negative and hate your job and hate everything of it, but the company isn't going to change. The company's going to keep prospering. The company's going to, it's not your company. You just work for it. We work for God's army. We're God's servants. The change is going to happen whether we want it to or not. So your mind, your perspective, your heart space, where you're at in the change and the evolution of what God is doing. You don't like change? You're not going to see God very good. I'm going to leave this here. I gotta skedaddle for work. But I love everybody, and I hope that this is helping everybody, and I hope that everybody's starting to see things a different perspective. Y'all, he's a good God. He's good. But everything isn't always good. Love you.